So, here we are. So someone asked me before we began about sitting for a long time. What's a long time? It's different for each person. And what do you do during that time? If you have a question about your practice, you should ask. Because sometimes we can be sitting and just passing the time. Just like passing the time. You know, it's sort of like sitting at a red light and just waiting for it to become green. But if you're sitting at the red light and you're not waiting for it to become green, then that's sitting. But if you're waiting for something to happen, then that's waiting. So, and sometimes the only thing you're waiting for is for the time to pass. Like, you know, I'm committed to doing this meditation for 20 minutes, and after 10, I'm waiting for it to pass. So that's like red light, green light. You know? But can you just fully be red light? So that's a question we should sometimes ask ourselves. Is what sort of attitude do I have to my experience, to my time, to my being time? You know, what does it mean to be time? You know, Dogen has a whole chapter called Being Time. Right? It's really interesting. And it's very, you know, it's very real in the sense that, you know, time is not something that exists outside of us. And time is us. Like, we are time. And you define it. The time's not defined for you. Sometimes it seems to go by quickly, sometimes slowly. You know? And we often think, oh, that's because I was having a good time. So it went by quickly. Right? Well, actually, it's because you were really present. You were aware. You know, you were paying attention. And so you weren't thinking about past and future. As soon as you start thinking about future, it slows down. Okay? So when you're thinking about like the green light, then the red light takes a long time. You know? And even if it only takes 10 seconds, it still seems to be like, oh, this is such a long light. So the meditation, if you're thinking about what should be happening, or about the future, or about after meditation, or even before meditation, it's going to take a long time. Yeah? Because you're not the time at that moment. The time is separate from you. But if you are the time, right, there's no separation between you and your time. And that's the attitude we want to have in meditation, is that we are being one with our experience. We're not going to separate it and say, okay, I'm going to evaluate it and judge it according to certain standards, like what I want out of it, or, you know, how much time I think it's taking. So, and time is just another way of talking about expectations. Notice that happening when you sit and you start to become restless. Where does that restlessness come from? You know, wanting to move, wanting to change, wanting to do something else. Where does that come from? That urge. It like seemed to come from nowhere. You're all relaxed and comfortable. And then you start to get bored or restless or thinking, and you need something else. Why? Why did you need something more than this? Where does that urge come from? That habit that pulls you out of your experience and makes you, you know, makes you feel like this is not enough. Disenchanted, comparing, wanting, desire. Yeah, displeasure. Okay, displeasure. But where does that all come from? It's easy to say, yeah, it comes from my sense of self. But that doesn't help me. You know? If I just say it's coming from self. What does that mean? I mean, what does self mean anyway when we talk about self in Buddhism? And we can break it down into all these factors and, you know, the skandhas and the way it is composed in Buddhist thought. But that doesn't help you actually release and open. That can only happen in your practice. That can only happen not from an idea, but from your commitment to be here. You know, you have to be committed to being happier. Yeah, you have to make that commitment to yourself and your life. That I'm committed to living more well. You know, I want to live better. I want to experience more. And experiencing more does not mean more activities. It means more present. Now let's remember that, you know, I was on this retreat and this woman came and she left like after half a day and she said, you know, you always talk about how time is passing, there's so little time left and, you know, you're going to die and you don't know when. So why are we sitting here doing nothing? Shouldn't we be like trying to do as much as possible to really, you know, get in as much? Well, if you do that and your mind always wants more, then it doesn't matter how much it is. It'll never be enough. But if your mind doesn't want more, then whatever it is enough. And that's the mind we want. Not about quantity, about quality. So how can you open up to the real quality of being here? And that's what meditation is trying to offer. That sense of, I've arrived. You know, I've arrived. You know, the journey ends here. Right? And it keeps going. So how can we invite that more in our lives? And that's by having a committed practice. It's not a practice in order to have some great clarity. It's just to be present, to be here. And not to always want to be somewhere else. You know? It's so simple and so difficult to just accept where you are and actually want to be where you are as your enlightened practice. This is your place to practice, nowhere else. And when you're somewhere else, that is your place to practice, nowhere else. It'll change according to circumstances. But every place you find yourself is exactly where you should be to practice. Why? Because you're there. You know? That's it. So this is where I want to talk about a certain master in the Zen history called Layman Pang. But before I get to Layman Pang, who's really notable because he was layman Pang, right? He was a lay person, not a monk. And all the recorded stories and everything are from these great monks and interesting monks, and all the koans and all the magical things that happen in the Enlightenment stories. All these really like intense monks. Then you have layman Pang, right? And he kind of beats them all. Why? Because he was a layman. And not only was he enlightened, but he had an enlightened family. That's the great thing. He didn't leave his family. He had a wife and daughter, and they all were enlightened. You know, of course, it's all story, right? Who knows? And I didn't meet them. And these are just stories from the 700s. Okay, like way back when in China. And how did they even keep these stories? They're all passed down. And any time you say something, isn't there that game? It's funny. It's called Chinese Whispers, right? Why Chinese Whispers? I don't know. Maybe because of these Zen stories. But when you tell someone, and the story changes every time, like if I were to tell you about Layman Pang, then you go around. By the time it comes back to me, he's like, you know, the Black Panther. I mean, he's like the superhero Pang. You know, I mean, Layman Pang suddenly is metamorphosized through each story and each telling into something else. But okay, so give that 1,200 years, 1,300 years, and wow, Layman Pang is pretty special. Okay, fine. These stories are there to encourage us and to motivate us. They're not historical accounts, right? None of the Buddhist stories are. all these magical stories about the Buddha also, what are they there for? They're there to encourage us to sit with our own lives and to find something special there. And you will if you sit and look, if you take the time. But if you always need to go somewhere else to find it, then when you get there, you'll need to go somewhere else to find it. Right? And on and on and on. Okay? So yesterday, Yonatan, John Sukito's brother, he comes to my group in Jerusalem, and he was in Thailand for a few weeks, and he stayed at Ajahn Sukito's monastery. He went with his wife, and she doesn't have a practice like he does. And they were there, and then after 2 days, she said to him, "We got to get out of here. We got to go. We got to go now." Right? He's like, just wait a minute. Let's just decide tomorrow. In the end, they stayed for 12 days, and she didn't want to leave. She's still there. No. She's a nun now. But the point is that initially we have resistance even to things that are good for us. That's kind of a crazy irony. That even to a practice that we know is a benefit, and not like some bitter medicine that after I take this course of like chemotherapy and suffer, I'll get better. No, it's also good along the way. And even that, we resist to say, no, I'll sit like later, tomorrow, or there's the group. I'll get my sitting in with the group, whatever. And if I miss the group, then, next week. So, I'm not going to be here next week. So there is no next week. Well, there is sitting. But tonight's the night, okay? And tomorrow's your day. Can we take that seriously? This is what Layman Pang comes to teach us that I'll talk to him about, but it's not only about procrastinating. Procrastinating is for schoolwork, right? It's more about this type of habitual resistance to opening up to a greater sense of who we are. Because sometimes it's comfortable to be small. Right? Because it may be, limited, but it's a limited I know. What we have resistance to is the unlimited I don't know. Right? And a lot of practice is opening up to not knowing. And that's uncomfortable. Right? It's uncomfortable to have to let go of some of your preconceptions and judgments. Not that they're wrong, but they're limited. They're limited. So can we accept the limitations of our precious views? And come back to a sense where none of that really matters. On the one hand, it's essential and matters. And on the other hand, in my sitting, it just doesn't matter. And it's necessary to take time every day, and during that time, during those few minutes, those precious minutes, everything you believe in, and everything you've achieved, and everything you plan just doesn't matter. What a relief if you can accept it and just put it down. Just let it rest for a few minutes. That is your sense of self. Okay. But when we unpack the self, it's like all these ideas, plans, history, personality, relationships, work, obligations, commitments. Take a few minutes, just let it rest, and just focus on breathing, and what a relief. When you can include that sense of relief, of putting down that weight, the burden of the self, the armor of the self. It's heavy. What a relief. Then pick it up again, and it's like, okay, yeah, this is what I need for now, but every day I'm going to spend a few minutes putting it down. So I want to talk about this in relation to Layman Pang. Layman Pang was a businessman, a successful businessman in the 700s of China. And he kind of got wealthy and decided to retire and study the Buddhist sutras. And he was studying them. And in the beginning, it was really difficult for him. And one of the stories is where he was studying the sutras, the Buddhist teachings, and he shook his head and he says, "This is so difficult." And the metaphor he said is it's like trying to throw a handful of sesame seeds into a tree and hitting each leaf. Like he really wanted to understand it, and that desire to understand seemed like impossible. It was impossible. There's so much depth and it's so difficult. Now how do I get through the self? And his wife overheard him, and her response was, "It's actually really easy. It's really easy. It's just like getting up out of bed and putting my feet on the ground. That's what it's like. Common sense." And his daughter, who is in the kitchen, turned around and said, "It's neither difficult nor easy. Right? When I'm hungry, I eat, and when I'm tired, I sleep." That was her response. And as we see, the children usually have more insight than their parents. And so that is the Pang family there in a nutshell. And what he decided after that was he thought that all of his possessions were an obstacle, right? That he was so caught up in making money and owning things that he thought that was the problem, right? Do you ever feel that sometimes, that like your things, your apartment, your car, your whatever, property, that's holding you back from just going, out into the blue, open blue, right? Because then what am I going to do with this stuff? Yeah, maybe it's a dog. So, or a person, a baby. What am I going to do with this thing? It's holding me back, my things. Otherwise I'd be free. Yeah, well, we've all been free and we weren't, right? So, the story goes that he collected all of his possessions, his furniture and everything, put it in a boat and pushed it out and sunk the boat. Yeah, it didn't help. So then he went wandering, and there were two main masters, Shitu and Mazu, during that time in history in China. And he went to one of them and he asked, because he was a layperson, he asked, "Okay, can you tell me," he went to Shito, this master, and he said, "Who is the one that is not part of the Dharma community, of the Dharma Sangha? Like, who's outside of the Dharma Sangha?" And he was expecting, he was kind of challenging. He was saying, okay, is a layperson not really equal? Not part of it, right? Meaning, am I not equal to you? Like, I don't know. I'm asking you. I'm going and I'm climbing this mountain to ask you, who's not part of this community? Right? And these were closed communities. And the response was Shutu took his hand and he covered Layman Pang's mouth. Like, shut up. What a dumb question. Why are you asking this? You're caught in duality. You're caught in dichotomy. You're caught in the sense of separation. Open your mouth, mistake. And Layman Pang was impressed by that, and he studied with Shutu for a couple of years, and then decided to go to the other master, Mazu, and ask the same question. So he did, comparing teachers. You ever do that? And so he went to Mazu and asked him, so who's not part of this community? And Mazu said, if you can drink the whole of the Yellow River in one gulp, I'll tell you. You know, and at that, Layman Pang, it says, had an enlightenment experience, because basically Mazu was saying the same thing as Shito. He was saying, what a dumb question. You ask a dumb question, you'll get a dumb answer. Okay? Go swallow the river, and I'll tell you. You know, why are you wasting your breath? You're wasting my breath. Stop wasting my time. Right? You're wasting your time chasing up the wrong tree. Right? It's not about questions and answers, is it? It's about the depth of your understanding that is wordless. You know, that is non-conceptual, that is non-dualistic, that cannot be, you know, judged and criticized. Can you open to that great reality? And that's what he was saying, like, go swallow a river, come on. Don't you wish teachers said things like that these days? Instead they try to explain things, like me.
I have a question.
Please.
Regarding time, as you said, we can either waiting or sitting, like on the car, going to work. Usually I can go to work from my alone highway. So there, in the morning it's really terrible, and I'm waiting, even though it takes me about 15 minutes, 20 minutes to get from my home to the work, but it's terrible. Like going with all the cars and alone, it's always going very slowly. And today I went by bicycles. It was sunny, and then going to the sea, from the sea, and it took me like for almost an hour, but I didn't want it to stop. It was really enjoyment. So I say it also about, like, I judge myself, because when I was meditating before, I was actually I was sitting and waiting also. Because I was like in a highway here, because after work, all day of work, my head is still running, and it was a highway, so I was waiting. And in the weekends, lately at home, it's also a highway, because we have a new baby at home, so and another kid, so it's always things to do. It's always demanding, and I cannot find the way to sit. It's also waiting, and I had experienced a lot of time when I was sitting at home even, but now I cannot do it. What should I do? Should I wait till this period will pass?
It's not going to pass. It's not. I'm actually serious. It's not going to pass.
At this age, in the work you are in the maximum, in the keeping of the kids. If you have kids, so you are in the maximum of the work, because it's the hardest time. With the parents, they're in the age of they're old, so they have to worry also there. Like it's the age of all the pressure. And I say, okay, when I'll be 50, then I can sit, I can go to retreats, I can I will have time, then to be something else. But now, how can I? But you can tell me to go to drink the river.
Not Yarkon, but
I didn't want to ask the question, because I was said, okay, you gave me like maybe that's the answer.
Yes and no. That is the answer, but I'm not as good a teacher as Mazu, so I have to add that your difficulties will never end. they will only change shape. Yeah. So it's not going to get any better. Right? But your ability to, observe and to accept will. You're not going to change life. You're going to change yourself. That's what you're working on. And if you wait until life changes, okay, the changes may not be according to your liking. So when you're 50, there may be another disaster waiting for you. Who knows? Don't wait. That's all I can say. Don't wait to liberate your mind from your expectations. What are you liberating your mind from? Your expectations. That's what you're liberating your mind from. That you need something else in order to be peaceful. Mm-hmm. This is it.
Yeah, I can understand that, but when you're in the highway and these cars is going, and you said, "Oh, why all this? I'm part of all these people that's going to work and all is running, and but when I'm there, I cannot do it. I cannot change my expectations. I cannot."
Yeah. Yeah. Don't forget the word that I used before, which was practice. We forget, we remember, we forget, we remember, we forget, we remember. The forgetting that you're describing is also impermanent. It's not just that the traffic is impermanent, that too is impermanent. Like, this is going to end, okay? May seem like a long 20 minutes, but it's going to end. But also, the forgetting and the irritation and your sense of self and all the pressure, that also has the nature of impermanence. And peace is always there underneath that, those waves. Right? Under those waves of thought is something more vast and open. And that's what you should trust. You should trust your awareness, which is not the same as your thoughts. Right? Your awareness is not the same as your thoughts. And that awareness, that consciousness, that being here, I am here. You know you're here. In the midst of the difficulty, I am here. You take one breath of acknowledgement, and then that passes too. But it's always there for you. The conditions will always be changing. Some will be more challenging, some will be more supportive. But the mind that is aware is always there. That is the mind you should trust. Don't put your money on the conditions. Conditions are so, unstable. Right? But your mind is clear in the midst of the lack of clarity. So, again, those are words. Those are just words. But the practice is coming back to that sense of, I'm here. Okay, I'm here. There was one, I'll share one episode from Master Pang, Layman Pang, where he went to many years later, he was visited by Mazu, his master, his old master. And they were standing under a plum tree, and he pointed up to the plum tree and he said, "This looks like a pretty mature plum tree. I wonder if the fruit is ripe. I wonder if the fruits are ripe." He's talking about himself, right? But they are also under a plum tree. So it's always, there is reality and then there's yourself, and you're always talking about both at the same time. So, it's a big, nice plum tree. Nice fruits. I wonder if they're ripe. And Mazu said, "Why don't you try one? Try one. See for yourself." Which is really like what the master is saying. Is I'm not going to tell you if it's ripe or not. You have to take a bite and decide for yourself. So he took a plum, bit into it. What was his response? How unique. And Master said, you've gotten to the core. Right? You got to the center of it. And it wasn't that it was ripe. It wasn't that it was unripe. It wasn't that it was good, and wasn't that it was bad. It was that this is unique. This situation, right, is unique. One of a kind. Yeah, I've been on this traffic, on this road, on the island many times. And, here I am stuck again, and it seems like the same stuckness. And I've got the same irritation. But it's not. This moment is special. And special doesn't mean good or bad, right? Usually we think special means good, like I should be enjoying it because, hey, beginner's mind means that it's good mind. No, beginner's mind means that it's unique. Maybe uniquely difficult. This difficult is unique, right? Like it's worse than last time. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not, but it's unique. So what we want to do with our attention is to appreciate the uniqueness of this moment. Maybe you've sat in this room before, maybe you've heard me before, right? But are you paying attention to the uniqueness of your breath, of your feelings, of your sensations, okay? It's not just the uniqueness of the outside circumstances. Stop being so hung up on externals. The Buddha Dharma is trying to turn us to view the inside, that you are the source of your freedom, not the outside. Take that seriously, okay? And you do that by saying, hey, this is a unique moment. This is a unique opportunity. Okay, this situation is my teacher. Right? Sometimes it's a living teacher, sometimes it's an inanimate teacher, like a traffic jam, or a situation at work, or a messy house, or a crying baby. This is my guru of this moment. How do I practice with this? So the beginner's mind is asking that question. How do I practice with this? What is the practice of this moment? It's unique. I have no answers. Cover your mouth. Don't give me an answer. That's what they're saying. Right? They're all saying the same thing. But pay attention to the uniqueness of this moment. Trust your mind, and you'll know what to do. Right? So I feel like these teachings they really are coming to do the same thing. It's like, pause, observe, breathe, and proceed. Okay? From a sense of trust and confidence, not in your intellectual abilities, okay, but in the vastness of your own mind, your truth, your awareness, your own clarity. Those are all words. Forget the words, okay? Swallow the river and be here. If there's one thing you can know about this moment, is that it's never happened before. Isn't that amazing? That in itself is enough. Why do we need more? Right? I mean, if it seems like we've done this already, it's because you are lost in the past. And you're comparing to your memories. But you're not really paying attention to the uniqueness of this plum. So really pay attention, and you'll see that, wow, this is my practice right now. That's what Lemon Pang is coming to tell us. And it doesn't matter about whether you're a monk or not, right? Monks just sometimes are aware of how much extra work they have to do. But our work is the same. Whether you're a monk or a layperson, right? It makes no difference. It's the same challenge. The same challenge of recognizing the uniqueness of this opportunity, that it's once in a lifetime. The other thing, and this is also really central to understanding this approach. When after Layman Pang had that enlightenment experience with Mazu, he wrote a poem. And this is a poem that he wrote, a verse. He wrote, people of all directions, of the 10 directions, meaning everywhere. People everywhere are of the same one Sangha. Remember his question was like, who's not part of the Sangha? And you realize that everybody is part of the Sangha. This is one saying that if you're not a Buddhist, you think that there are Buddhists and non-Buddhists. And when you're a Buddhist, you realize that everybody's a Buddhist. Not because they follow the Buddha's teachings, but everyone's trying to be happy and awaken to the beauty of this reality, in their own mistaken way. So he said, each people everywhere are of the same one Sangha. Each and every one learns Wu Wei. Wu Wei. This is the concept I want to get to, the idea that he wrote. Wu Wei means, it's from Taoism. And Taoism is sort of the background for Zen. It was, the original Chinese religion before Buddhism came into it. So Chinese Zen is a mixture of Taoism and Indian Zen, Indian Buddhism. Wu Wei means non-action, or effortless effort, right? The effort of non-effort. This is key to understanding how to appreciate the uniqueness. When you appreciate the uniqueness and the beauty of life, it's not because you want something to be beautiful, but you accept that it is. Okay? You can't make something beautiful that's not. Right? You can't realize uniqueness when you feel like it's not unique. You have to let it be. Okay? You have to receive it on its terms. And that's Wu Wei. That's the effortless effort. It's like, I want to be enlightened. I want this moment to be special, but I have to let go of wanting it to be special in order to realize the specialness that it is. That's Wu Wei. Okay, it's letting go and letting in. So, this is the very place to find Buddha. Empty-minded, having passed the exam, I return. This is also really important. Empty-minded, having passed the exam, I return. Okay? We're not here to leave, we're here to return. So, the point of this practice is to come full circle back to the life that you're living, but from a different understanding. That it's not about you. It's about that great appreciation, openness, and acceptance. That's the Wu Wei. Okay? And to end, I want to read a section from the Tao Te Ching, which was written by Lao Tzu in the around 500s BCE, which is kind of a special time. It was around the same time of Confucius and Buddha, so there's a lot of sort of spiritual awakening happening. And in the second chapter, it actually talks about Wu Wei, and this is how Lao Tzu describes effortless effort. Therefore, the master acts without doing anything, and teaches without saying anything. Things arise, and she lets them come. Things disappear, and she lets them go. She has, but she doesn't possess. Acts, but doesn't expect. When her work is done, she forgets it. Practicing non-doing, everything falls into place. So here we have what seems sometimes like a contradiction until you realize this is just simply the way to be free in life, to do things. When your work is done, you forget it. Or you don't hold on to it as your own special achievement. What's the point? And you can own your stuff. Remember we talked about in the beginning, Master Pang put all this stuff on a boat and sunk the boat. That wasn't Wu Wei. That wasn't Wu Wei. That wasn't effortless effort. That was a lot of effort. Okay? It's like if you have to make so much effort to let go, that's called rejection. Okay? Not letting go. Letting go is having things and not being attached to them. Not being afraid of losing them. While they're here, I'll take care of them. When they're gone, I'll move on. Right? So that's Wu Wei. Effortless effort. And how do we practice that? If you recall, in the beginning of this session, I gave a bit of meditation instruction, and I connected it to the simple activity of our breath. If you want to practice effortless effort, it starts with your breath. This is how we connect to this approach. The approach is not an intellectual one. It's not something in a way that we look around at things, because that's kind of interpreting and judging, right? And possessing. Okay, even possessing ideas. Here, the Wu Wei is practiced in the way we approach our breath. We're aware, and this is why the breath is the focused meditation, because it bridges both the conscious and unconscious. It bridges the effort and non-effort, okay? The acting and not expecting, okay? So we breathe, and you are aware of placing your attention on the breath, and you can actually control your breath to deepen it and lengthen it. But you can't force it, because then it becomes a burden, okay? It becomes, forced. So we want to have effort and non-effort united in your breath. You make the effort to pay attention to it. You actually are controlling your breath, but with such a light touch that it's directing and not controlling, right? It's paying attention and letting go at the same time. This is why breath is the enactment, okay, it's the realization of Wu Wei, effortless effort, okay, non-action. And that's where we can, if you're wondering, how do I let go? You want to know where you start? You start by breathing. Because if the one thing you can't hold for very long, it's your breath. Okay, even if you're a diver, you're going to have to let go of your breath. So, consider your breath as a very real practice of effortless effort, letting go and letting in. So it's the harmony of being here but not owning, okay? Not holding on. Having and letting go in every breath. That's how we practice this Wu Wei, right? Is it so hard? Well, sometimes as Layman Pang's daughter, said, when I'm hungry, I eat. When I'm tired, I sleep. But when our minds and our thoughts get in the way, we drink coffee, turn on the light, and stay up way longer than we should. We disrupt the natural harmony of our lives. Come back to that sense of trust that, you'll know what to do at the right time. When to breathe lightly, when to breathe heavily. When to eat, when to sleep, when to work. When to worry, and when to not. So trust that mind. Trust that effortless effort, that Wu Wei. And where do you start? With your breath. With your breath. Good place for us to start and finish. So,